What's going on, folks? I didn't really know that I was going to make a video, but here I am making one. And this one is a response to a request. And I thought to myself, if I don't try to respond to it, I will forget or get bogged down and never get to it. And someone wanted me to talk about, I think specifically British folk rock. Now, I first have to say that in general, folk music, I love folk music, and it struck a chord with me early on in my life as a child. Um, but with that said, my knowledge of it is piecemeal. I have music, but I can't really elaborate on these artists. Jeff, my friend Jeff, can. Jeff knows more about, I think, I would say that Jeff is pretty knowledgeable about British folk rock. But I'll show you some of the things that I have, and I'm going to start by showing a couple of CDs because next time I see these reissues, wherever I see them, I will be buying the vinyl because I passed up chances. And that is Trees on the Shore. And this is some really cool music. And it's also just one of the most, in my mind, one of the most intriguing album covers from the 70s. I don't know, that's a great shot. It's a great shot. And seeing it as an album, I remember back in '94 when I was in Japan working and I went record shopping. That was the first time I came across it in a record store, and they wanted the equivalent of $300 for it. And it was just, it was like, whoa, these folks are serious down here. I also have their other album on CD. This is What About Jane Delaunay? The Garden of Jane Delaunay. And again, this is some sweet stuff. And so I pulled some albums. What I have to admit about my record collection, again, because I've sold a lot of records, but I've kept a lot, and then I've also accumulated over time more than I realized, because there's music hidden in here that I innately know I have it, but I can't remember, you know what I'm saying, until I see it. I know I have a whole lot more folk and some interesting folk that I just can't come to mind. Some things that are kind of obscure to me because they're not names that I hear often. So I'm just explaining that I have much more than what I'm showing about the show. This is just what I could get come to mind. So when I think of folk, and particularly British folk, I think of bands like Griffin. I also tend to think of Irish folk. I know that England and Ireland are two different countries, but I tend to think of them in similar. So there might be a little bit of Irish stuff in here. But Richard, what's the man's name? Richard Harvey, the keyboardist and the guy that plays Crumhorn. And the way they used the bassoon. This is a badass. I consider this album more progressive rock than folk, but that's their background. It's coming from a folk, truly folk tradition, no one playing those instruments. Only got a couple of records by this band, and I need to give this a better sleeve. Jeff has a bunch of these guys. Amazing Blondell. I love this album though, Mulgrave Street. Now, of their albums, it's a mixture of soft folk and pop, but really, really well done. I love the opening track to this, the title track, Mulgrave Street, particularly the second part where it mellows down. It's just beautiful. Oh, by the way, because I'm not used to doing this, I'm just playing music. You really probably can't hear it, but I'm listening to Illusion, Out of the Mist. Jane Ralph getting down here. Sweet. Her voice is really, it's mellow. It's beautiful. Jeff gave me an Amazing Blondell double. So I have Mulgrave Street again on this, plus one other album, Inspiration. And really appreciate Jeff giving that to me. Again, I think of Lindisfarne when I think of English folk rock. And so I guess maybe I should say more folk rock than folk, because I do understand folk, like Shirley Collins and Oyster Band. And You know, I don't have any of those records, any of their records on vinyl. I do like Shirley Collins. JSD Band, Traveling Days. This is some good English folk rock. Good band, JSD Band. Now, when it comes to English folk rock, this is one of my favorites, Dando Shaft. And I can't remember how I got this. I've had this for such a long time. But this is a really good album, period. But the folk style picking and the storytelling and just the vibe is, it's one of my favorite albums. I mean, that's hard for me to say with all these records, but as when it comes to mind to say that, I say it. That's one of my favorite albums. These folks have a lot of records. I just have these two. Richard Thompson, Henry the Human Fly. Now this is not a thrift store find, but it was a discount find. I found this record as a cutout. And again, some of you older folks know what I mean when I say cutout. It was a discounted. That's why it has the cut corner. Found it for like 57 cents. And this is a great album, as you know. And then I have him with his ex-wife, Richard and Linda Thompson. I Want to See the Bright Lights Tonight. This is some good stuff. Yeah, see the illusion just kicked into the track that I really like here. I wanted to include showing this because it has the guitarist Davy Graham on it. You also see that Soft Machiner on here and Mark Lehman 5. But Davy Graham was an influential guitarist on the scene back, I believe, in the 60s on many players. Great player. Flairk, I thought I'd show this. This is, again, makes me think kind of Irish, but I don't know if they're Irish or English. Variations on a Lady. This is a really fine album. Alan Stivell. I think of Alan Stivell when I think of the folk rock music, and this is the only thing I have by him. I can't say it. I can't pronounce it. Harpist plays the harp. Here's a Steel Eye Band album I've had a long time. This is a great album. Pleased to See the King on Big Tree. This is an original, as far as American. When it came out in America, it came out on this label, Big Tree. This is a great album. It has Lovely on the Water. I love that song, Lovely on the Water. So that's a moving song for me. Ralph McTell, another one that Jeff gave me. He had doubles of this. You Well Meaning Brought Me Here. He comes to mind because when I was a teen and reading the English music press, of course they would have the folk section, and his name was one of the more prominent names I'd read about a lot. And this is good. Bert Jansch, how do you say it? I believe he was in Pentangle. I'll be honest, this is an album I found used in the last couple of years, and I have yet to become familiar with this album. And so again, making these videos is good because I rediscover my own record collection, and I'll leave things out and say, okay, now listen to it, you know. Pentangle, of course, Cruel Sister. Now these guys, again, it's like time stops, and you're with them when they play this music, and it just conjures a whole world. And the other one I have is Solomon's Seal. Those are only two Pentangle albums I have. Then there's Fairport Convention. I have a few, but just a few of the records. Full House. If you know British folk rock, you know Fairport Convention, you know how good they are. Where Richard Thompson and a lot of folks came from. Sandy Denny. Angel Delight. This is the good stuff. That's what I can say. This is the good stuff. Here's one of my favorite Fairport albums, Babacom Lee. it's a whole story about I believe it's like someone have to tell me, it's quite a story. Is it fabricated or is it true? Did Babacom Lee really exist? I'm thinking he did. But what I can tell you is this is my personal favorite Fairport Convention album. I love the music on here. As I've always said, music first for me. Music first. A Movable Feast. I found this used, I think, for like a buck. So I'm going to be honest, I haven't listened to this. I need to listen to this. I've listened to this, Port Convention number 9. This is a good album. Some fine players and writers. Last Fairport album I have is Rising for the Moon. I know there's a lot of good records that I imagine folks will recommend to me, and if I come across them at a decent price, I'll snap them babies. A few more things I'll show. When I think of folk music, Planksty comes to mind. The Woman I Loved So Well. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I love that album cover too. I think Jeff gave this to me, or did you? Or see, now I need to get a cup of coffee. I thought I'd show this again. I showed it in a past video. It's an Electra record sampler that is just awesome, called Garden of Delights. It's got a couple of sides that are dedicated just to many of the folk artists on the Electra label. It's a three record set. This is very, very nice. I was turned on to this artist here, Alice Dereck, and I think this is American actually. But when I was pulling folk, I thought, well, let me show this. This is don't really know much about this man and would like to know more. And so if this is familiar to folks, please, I'd love to know more about him. I want to show this because this is an island sampler, which includes Tir Nanog, Incredible String Band, Mike Herron. I forgot to grab my Incredible String Band. See, I knew I was forgetting a lot of music. But this is a pretty cool sampler. It originally came with a plastic binder, which has deteriorated, so I got rid of it. But Island Records is a good source for British folk. When I think of Keith Christmas, some of his records when I think of British folk, although he's also rock. But I thought I'd show him. A band that Jeff loves and has, I think, everything by Horselips, The Book of Invasion. Here's another Steel Eye Span I found recently, Parcel Rogues. This is good stuff. And the last thing that I just pulled for this video to just show some of my folk, more British than anything else, is Trader Horn, Morning Way. This is a reissue. I wish it was an original copy. But this is a very nice pressing. And this is a great album. Great album. But when I think of folk in general, I think of the whole world, and there's a lot of American folk that and folk rock and Canadian, Super West, in answering his thread to Sid, mentioned Gordon Lightfoot. I just love Gordon Lightfoot very seriously. I'm looking over here, about 10 albums by Gordon Lightfoot. I love him. And the Incredible String Band. Can I spot that and grab that real quick? Let's see here. There you are. I just got a couple. I think Jeff has the majority of their albums. But we'll show this one, Incredible String Band. Talk about going on a journey. This is cover is beat, but be glad for the song has no ending. And this is one of my prizes in that it's my only pink island label. I like labels like a lot of folks, and I would love to have more pink island. Like those are like the original pressings. It's pretty much what I'm thinking, if we can get those periods that albums they put out from that time period. And I have this one that came out in America, The Incredible String Band. Earthspan. So that's what I have to share. And any comments, recommendations, further information is greatly appreciated. Thanks, folks, and love you all. God bless you.